Federal contracting is going through some major shakeups right now, from sweeping FAR reforms to a new Department of Energy policy that sparked a lawsuit from 19 states. If you're a small business or government contractor, these changes could directly impact how you compete and win your work. Now, welcome to your 3-minute government contractor playbook, where we cut through the noise and give you the government contracting news that you can use to compete, win, and grow. So let's dive into it. Big news just dropped that could change federal contracting for years. On August 15th, the White House rolled out what they're calling the revolutionary FAR Overhaul. If you're a small business or a contractor working with the government, this is one of those moments where the rulebook is getting rewritten and you're going to want to pay attention. So what's actually happening? Well, the Office of Federal Procurement Policy, the OFPP, just gave agencies the green light to eliminate up to 1/3 of contract requirements, specifically the ones that aren't required by law and don't affect outcomes. Translation is less red tape. However, the reforms also make it easier to buy commercial solutions, including from small businesses. Agencies are now directed to use government-wide best-in-class contracts instead of creating their own duplicative ones. And to catch everyone up, OFPP has put out new tools, the FAR Comparison Guide, Practitioner's Albums, and a Category Guide. Think of these as playbooks to help contracting officers adapt quickly. This is the biggest shakeup in federal procurement in decades. For contractors, this means fewer hoops to jump through, faster buying cycles, and more standardized vehicles. For small businesses, the barriers to entry could drop significantly, making it easier to compete and win. And it's not just the feds making moves. In Texas, lawmakers passed an $8.5 billion increase in school funding. Now, while most of that funding is locked into teacher salary, special education, and school safety, here's the catch. Districts still face budget squeezes for utilities and insurance. Expect demand to rise for vendors offering staff services, safety infrastructure, and early education tools. Meanwhile, heading back to the federal government, GSA is doubling down on streamlining its big contract values. Things like Alliant, Polaris, CIO-SP, and SEWP. Over $126 billion already flows through GSA Schedules and GWACs, and that number's climbing. States like Nebraska also have open bids right now, ranging from IT modernization to HVAC maintenance. So here's the bottom line. Less bureaucracy, more commercial buying, and bigger opportunities across federal and state levels. If you're a small business or government contractor, you need to study these reforms and position yourself out of the wave so that you are able to obtain those opportunities before anybody else. And lastly, the big story is this. Out of Washington and the states, 19 states plus DC have filed a lawsuit against the Department of Energy. At the center of it, a brand new rule that caps indirect costs on state and local grants to 10%. Now, I know indirect costs might sound like accounting jargon, but for government contractors and small businesses, this fight could have real consequences. So here's the backdrop. Back in May, DOE dropped a policy stating that states could only bill 10% of their grants for indirect costs. Think things like admin staff, rent, fringe benefits, IT systems compliance, the backbone expenses that keep programs and businesses running. Before this, states negotiated their rates individually, sometimes much higher than 10%. By cutting them off at 10%, DOE is essentially blowing a hole in a lot of these budgets overnight. States, on the other hand, say that the cap is arbitrary, illegal, and disruptive. They argue that DOE didn't explain why 10% was a magic number and that federal law actually requires agencies to honor previously negotiated contracts. Now, this lawsuit filed in the federal court in Oregon claims that this will lead to layoffs, canceled projects, and serious hits to programs like clean energy, weatherization, and even emergency preparedness. In short, this isn't about red tape. It's potentially pulling the rug out from under major state initiatives. So, getting back to what does all this mean for you, the contractor, or you, the small business? If the cap sticks, it could shrink the pie for grant-supported procurement. States will have less flexibility in their budgets, which could mean fewer contracts, delayed payments, or even more scrutiny on overhead costs. But on the flip side, if states win, expect renewed funding stability and possibly even new contracting opportunities as programs restart with stronger financial backing. Either way it turns out, stay tuned, because these grant programs are where a lot of service contracts, everything from IT support to construction to energy building, actually come from. And that's your 3-minute brief. These aren't just headlines, they're action signals. If you want to talk strategy, if you need help winning these opportunities, reach out to us at Squared Compass. We help businesses grow and win in government spaces across federal and across SLED. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next competitive edge. See you next time.